So we've talked through carbon cycle and the different processes that move carbon around between all four spheres. Now we're really focusing in on the human impact part. What do we do within those processes that have the biggest impact to ourselves, to the earth, to the spheres? So we need a little bit of background here. So this is about greenhouse effect and how it works. So we're going to draw a little picture here by starting with just the earth down here at the bottom and the atmosphere above it. And we need the sun. So greenhouse effect, we kind of compare to a greenhouse where the outsides are clear, so the solar energy, both light and heat, can get in to the earth. But the nice thing about it is any of that solar energy reflected or released from the earth's surface typically stays in our atmosphere. And that's because of greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases like CO2, it's one of the most common ones. We'll hear about a few more as well. They absorb solar heat that has been reflected or released from the Earth's surface. So essentially, because these gases surround our planet within the atmosphere, they help keep heat in and retain a nice, comfortable temperature throughout the planet and throughout time. If we think about not having these greenhouse gases, that reflected or released energy would just go back into outer space, and we wouldn't have like a little comfy blanket like we have around the earth right now. So when we think about greenhouse effect, a lot of the times we immediately hear greenhouse effect and think climate impacts. And sometimes we go right to this bad idea. But what we want to pass along to you today is that greenhouse effect is a good thing. Because again, without those greenhouse gases, our planet has extreme temperature changes, very cold, as that solar energy is released back into the universe. So what those greenhouse gases do is they absorb that solar heat. And those greenhouse gases are things like we said, CO2, CH4 we'll hear about, which is methane, and another one is water vapor actually. And so what they do again is they keep heat in, and so we see in the data a direct connection between CO2 and these greenhouse gases and average Earth temperature, as you might guess. So here's what I need you to do is predict, two of them actually. Predict what is that relationship between CO2 and temperature. And so you can take this any way you'd like. Choose increase or decrease. So when CO2 either goes up or goes down, what impact will that have on temperature? Will temperature increase or decrease? And think about how we just described what CO2 does. It absorbs heat. So think about what might happen to temperatures if we have more or less. And then the second predict here is what two carbon cycle processes might humans have the largest impact on when we're thinking about more carbon being added to the atmosphere. So that's thinking back to our carbon cycle notes and looking specifically at those arrows that go up into the atmosphere and trying to figure out which two do humans play a biggest role. Once you've done those predicts, I'm going to ask you to dig into some of that data by completing these two things, ES ice cores and ES human impact graphs. These are both new things where I'm asking you to observe, to listen, and to kind of try to figure stuff out. So you can have your greenhouse gas notes here next to you or your carbon cycle notes, but you're not going to find necessarily an exact answer there. But knowing what combustion is going to be helpful. Knowing what respiration is going to be helpful. And this is set up so you can do these up to 3 times. So once you go in there, go back, check your submission, and see how it went and think about what you could maybe try again or look through it to help gain your understanding. Some of the graph questions you might see just a little recording from me, just talking through the graph and or the question to give you a little more background and maybe help you complete it. This part 2 we will work on at a later date. You're only thinking about part 1 and this to-do list right now.